So, speaking of services, I was seeking inspiration for today's service and I drew upon the gospel according to Google. Google searches for the year 2020 came up with results that I can't include in a sermon. If any of you have seen any of these 2020 memes, you may mention them in the text chat, provided they are family friendly. The ones I found were, if 2020 was a bag of chips, the flavor would be orange juice and toothpaste. If 2020 was a drink, it'd be colonoscopy prep. And finally, if 2020 were a scented candle, and then they show a big line of porta potties on fire. So I moved from the gospel of Google to the gospel of Facebook. I made a post that some of you responded to. I asked the question, what's something good that happened in 2020 in your life and or in the world? Now, for some, even that question is triggering. Indeed, I removed a version of this post earlier in the year because it seemed to be doing harm to my friends in New York City. At the time, they really couldn't see any silver linings in their situation. And anyone who was doing so seemed to be ignoring how dire their situation was. But this time, the post brought about a surprising number of positive responses. And I'd like to know your answer in the text chat. What's something good that happened for you in 2020, in your life or in the world? And we've already begun this process in the caring candles, and Danielle and Jordan have already, and David have already posted. Thank you for that. My Unitarian Universalist friend Mike Pillman posted the following. Please remember, he said, that in 2020, beloved children were born, couples got married, and many joyful milestones were observed. For their sakes, he said, let's not make 2020 a curse word. 2020 was the year, he says, that we found out how much we loved each other, how our bodies ache to see and be with and touch hands with each other. Bless 2020, Mike says, and all those that lived through it. Bless those that did not. My Facebook friends did indeed have babies, including little Hosea Martin Palm Husby. And one new parent posted a photo of his daughter, then asked, can she make up for the horrors of 2020? I can't frame things that way, he continued. She outshines my whole life's struggles and victories up to this point, but she also brings the tragedy of COVID into high relief. We have lost and or been severed from beloved people in our lives that she may never meet. My friends also had several grandchildren, and one friend had her fourth great-grandbaby. Some friends found romantic partners. Some moved in with their partners. Some got engaged, and a few got married. There were several new dogs, one new cat, and one horse. Some friends quit smoking, learned to play the tenor saxophone, practiced meditation, and learned to be a blacksmith. My friend in Montana, who might be listening in right now sees family and friends much more often on screen. And she's an environmental activist, so the lack of travel makes her carbon footprint smaller. Some friends found new jobs, qualified for mortgages, purchased homes, and published books. Some had medical problems diagnosed and treated. And many, many of my friends were happy for the results of the United States presidential election. My friend in Michigan said, it's such a little thing, but with my kids home from school, we don't have to rush around in the morning. Our mornings are so much less stressful, and there's greater ease in our relationships. Another said, I don't have to worry about school shootings since my kids are all home. Another friend said, I woke up today, and that's a start. And my friend who survived COVID-19 said, I'm alive. What are your good things about, oh my goodness, there's many of them. I shall scroll. Matthew Gerard says, I like working from home. It has opened up possibilities. Karen Campbell has more focus on keeping connections. Lindsay Sylvester got a new niece. Lee Garrett, he also got a job he loves. I think that's referring to a previous post. David Price got a new hip. Danielle left an abusive relationship. Kathleen got to spend more time with her teenagers. Oh, there you go. Lee's son went back to China with his girlfriend, and it was safer than it was here. Sarah Shore's husband was declared cancer-free. As previously noted, Reverend Allison said Hosea was born. Susie Grossman spent a lot of time in her art studio making. Pat LeDoux's daughter got married. Robin got the manuscript for his third book to the publisher. Cheryl Carroll got to work from home. And she says her granddaughter comes over and does remote school here. Neither of us is alone. We get to eat lunch together. Lindsay said, I reset my work relationship by working at home. Kathleen got to work with home, sometimes in PJs and never in heels. Lori and Roy Goodman are visiting with family all around the country and the world on a regular basis. Cardone family celebrates, and yes, you made this comment on the post that Paul does not have to travel for work. He used to travel for work a lot. Benja Falata says she strengthened family connections via Zoom. Kim Steele's daughter completed her March degree. Jordan's best friend got engaged just on Christmas. And Brenna had two things. One, she got to spend an entire year home with Simon, when normally that would not be the case. And two, took on a challenging remote kindergarten teaching job. And she has done well enough that her district recognized me publicly and asked me to teach a course to the entire district on remote engagement for students, families, and staff. Congratulations, Brenna, and I am not surprised. Paul and Tricasso discovered the Playing for Change organization, good medicine for the soul and the healthy alternative to doom scrolling. The shortest distance, he says, between people, countries, and culture is a love of music. Erica's cousin got engaged, and so did her brother, and her other cousin had her baby. These are a lot to read, but there are folks listening in who can't read the text chat, so I'll just finish up. Kathleen says a COVID scare sent me to help out with care for my father for a week. It was scary and not ideal, but she says, I haven't spent that much time around him without distraction ever. It was precious time. Andy Capon said, Shelley and I celebrated our 1-year anniversary, spent wonderful time together, and he got to spend a lot of time with his kids while working from home. Harry Perkheiser says, I remain totally ignorant of Facebook. Oh, Jeannie has joined us and says from Alabama and has said, I'm glad I was able to be at home. Hope you're feeling better, Jeannie. Dan Murphy says Dan and Sarah got a new grandniece. Roy published his second novel, and Burns made new friends in South Africa, giving a virtual talk. Now, the difficulties and triumphs from 2020 were systemic as well as individual. So in Australia, wildfires brought about not only devastation, but also marshaling of resources to save as many living beings as possible. And here in the United States, police brutality and systemic racism continue to victimize Black, Indigenous, and other people of color. But a mass movement of Black Lives Matter activists worked all year long to change that. And voter suppression continued in these same communities. But despite that, voters risked their own lives and waited in line for hours, resulting in that presidential election that I mentioned earlier. And COVID-19 took the lives of 322 people in this country alone. But many first responders worked tirelessly to stem that spread, and researchers brought us the vaccines that Jordan is thankful for, that are even now being distributed. The triumphs from 2020 cannot erase the harm that was done, the jobs that were lost, the lives that were lost, the lives that were taken. So should 2020 be a curse word? Or should we take Mike Pillman's advice, blessing and thanking the year? Should old acquaintance actually be forgot? Some years ago, Lucinda and I were having a particularly hard time seeking comfort and answers. We read the book When Bad Things Happen to Good People by Rabbi Harold Kushner. The book deals with a concept I learned in divinity school called theodicy, or the existence of evil in a world supposedly created by a loving God. Rabbi Kushner wrote the book after his son Aaron died at age 14. Kushner's explanation of theodicy was that God wasn't here to deal out acts of suffering. God was here, according to Kushner, to help us get through the suffering. Now, many of us in this congregation have different concepts of God or the goddess or spirit of life. Our Wednesdays at Eat, Share, Learn have been currently exploring concepts of God and goddess, and some of you have been there for those discussions. Our Coming of Age group explored those concepts this past Sunday, and some of you were there for that. But whatever your concept of a power greater than yourself, a power greater than ourselves, I hope it does include Kushner's idea that this power helps us survive suffering and get through it, even if that power greater than ourselves is this congregation. My friend Martin says that humanity was and still is on a path of self-destruction that is devastating our planetary ecosystem. And COVID-19 stuck a stick in the wheel. Is this good? I don't want to minimize the pain and suffering caused by COVID, Martin continues, but now I'm wondering what good really means. My answer for Martin and for all of you this morning comes from another divinity school lesson, a lesson that has been reinforced by this internship. We don't have to choose. We can hold both. We can hold the horror that 2020 brought and also the heroism of those who spoke out, those who voted, those who parented, those who got up in the morning. My friend Debbie walked on the Great Peace March with me in 1986 across the United States. For her, 2020 began in a coma after she suffered multiple hemorrhaging strokes. Scans of Debbie's brain revealed that only half of it was active after all the damage. The doctor said there was no way she would survive. But she did. Debbie tells me that she was out of it for months. Then slowly for her, everything came into focus. She realized she couldn't move half of her body. Doctor said she may never be able to go home. But with hard work and physical therapy, she was able to go home, where she is right now listening to this very church service. Debbie, I am so glad you are still alive and still in this world and still my friend. If you are like my friends in New York City earlier this year, and your life is just awful right now, if you're having a hard time seeing the positive in anything, if your 2020 had no silver linings, I still hope you can hear the words of Tiny the God. Say it with me if you remember it. You are not alone. I am here. I hope you can hear the words we said at the beginning of this service. Every person is worthy of love. What we do in this world matters. We are connected to one another and to the earth. I hope you can hear the beautiful singing of Steve Hedges singing Life Goes On. Another dawn is breaking, and night has given way to the promise of another day, another chance that we may finally find our way. I hope you can hear Anne and her friends singing, Today is where your book begins. The rest is still unwritten. And I hope you can hear these words from songwriter Libby Roderick. How can anyone ever tell you that you are anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you are less than whole? How can anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. Amen. And blessed be. Please join us in singing our closing hymn, number 1053 in the Teal Hymnal, How Could Anyone by Libby Roderick. I will sing it live and unaccompanied, but the lyrics will be posted in the chat. There they are. Thanks, Erica. So feel free to sing along at home. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. My wish for you is that you remember the good things that happened in 2020. My wish for you is that 2021 will be a better year for you, for all of us, and for the world. And whether or not it turns out to be better, my wish for you is that you will remember you are not alone. I am here. Let's say that together to each other. You are not alone. I am here. May it be so.